The first reading of the GST collection for the month of August has dropped nearly 2% compared to the first reading that was released in July. Now, let me break down the numbers for you because it is a bit complicated. The first reading for August is a little over 90,000 crore rupees, but the first reading of July was a little over 92,000 crore rupees. However, the July collection now stands at over 94,000 crore rupees because people paid up post or filed their returns post the extension that was provided. It's also worth noting that the July numbers were released on the 29th of August, and now that the August numbers have been released on the 25th of September. So these numbers have been released 4 days earlier compared to last month. So that also gives you the idea that we could see an improvement over these numbers. Now, the government hopes to garner about 4,000 crore rupees in these 4 days, which could bridge the gap between July and August. Now, let's talk about compliance, and that actually is the worry for the government. It's not so much the revenue collection, but compliance. Only 55% of the total registered assessees have filed their returns for the month of August so far. So, as I pointed out, it's going to be the compliance numbers that will worry the government. The revenue collections seem to be trending in line with what we saw for the month of July, if you go by the first cut, and the government is hoping that that will pick up as well. Prateek Jain of PwC joins us. Prateek, on a first reading, if you compare the first cut of July with the first cut of August, there is about a 2% decline, but the government hopes to bridge that gap because you still have 4 days remaining, and of course they hope that that 4,000 crore rupees will be bridged.
Yeah, so that decline was we are expecting that because a large amount of opening credit, which was claimed around 65,000 crore, may have been adjusted this month. But there will be, this number of 90,669 crore still includes, or does not include the entire opening credit that businesses will claim, and also the deemed credit. Which 40% or 60% of the CGST for the traders. That facility or utility has not come on to the GSTN, so that also will have to be reduced from this.
Right.
And also, mind you, we have not reduced the refunds which is due to exporters, right? So once you make all that adjustments, perhaps you'll get a correct picture, and that perhaps you'll get in a month or so.
Okay.
But overall, it seems that around 95,000 crore is where you are sort of getting some stability here, and that is the number that then they will have to put as a base. This number does not look very good because obviously there is some slowdown which is clearly visible, and particularly July and August were 2 months which had a little bit of slowdown. Yeah. Hopefully in September it improves because I think business had picked up in September after the 2 months sort of impact. So let's see how it goes, but I think it seems to be stabilizing at around 90 to 95,000.
Yeah, it seems to be stabilizing around that mark. Let me also bring in Mani from Deloitte into this conversation. Mani, as Prateek was pointing out, perhaps as far as revenue collection is concerned, the trend seems to be around 90 to 95,000 crore rupees. But the worry perhaps for the government is going to be on the compliance side, because even if you look at what the government is saying, there are still a number of assessees who have not filed their return either for the month of July or even for the month of August. So compliance now seems to be the big concern, isn't it, Mani?
Shireen, completely agree with you. As far as 95,000 or 90,000 is concerned, I wouldn't be unduly worried about that because that is an ongoing figure which will keep changing as the months go. And since this is an indirect tax collection, I think this is typically something which will get calculated on a cumulative basis and not on a month-on-month basis. So I wouldn't be too worried about whether it is 90,000 or 94,000. But what you mentioned in terms of compliance is definitely a matter of concern. To some extent, I think, the processes that GSTN has evolved are to blame because many assessees wanted to file the return but were not able to file the return.
But that's not the argument. Mani, we've been talking to the government and the government is refuting that argument. In fact, they're blaming it on assessee behavior, saying that the GSTN is up and running, it's fully functional. Let me get both of you to comment on that. And Prateek, let's throw the numbers your way. The total number of taxpayers who were required to file their monthly returns for August was 68.2 lakhs, of which on 25th of September, merely 37.63 lakh GSTR 3B returns have been filed. Prateek.
Yes, and that's surprising because 3B is really a summary return, and if 3B people are not able to file, then what will happen to the GSTR 1s and 2s, which are due now next month? And that is the reason why they have been requesting the government to defer this whole GSTR 1 and 2 at least in December and only continue with GSTR 3Bs. I think while GSTN over last 1 or 2 weeks, I think there is a substantial improvement that we have noticed in the system, but still not fully there yet. So businesses are still facing challenge. But I still, despite that, I would feel that the 3B numbers are unusually low to my mind. And for the government, I just want to make one point. That government, perhaps this argument to say that all the businesses are rushing at the last moment. It's not a right argument to my mind, because once you have a deadline, you can't ask the businesses to file earlier, right? So I mean, the system has to be robust enough to take that load, to my mind, and that's something that we need to work on.
Mani, let me give you the final say. I mean, how do you explain the fact that of the 68.2 lakh assessees, merely 37.63 lakh GSTR 3B returns have been filed for the month of August? How do you explain this?
Shirin, I wouldn't be very surprised actually with the numbers, honestly speaking, primarily because the dates for GSTR, various returns have been extended so many times that I'm sure there is a very large constituency of people who were expecting that the GSTR 3B would also get extended. Here we have to bear in mind that even in the early part of the month, where the government said that GSTR 3B would not be extended beyond 2 months. The very next day they came out with circulars which said it could not be extended. But the very next day it got extended. So there would be a large constituency of people who would be waiting for an extension of the GSTR 3B. And there are a lot of IT challenges that people have faced. I believe a definitive document has been prepared on this and has been handed over to the government also, detailing the kinds of issues that people have faced in respect of the GSTN only. So there is a document that is available with the government which highlights all the challenges that people have seen. But possibly, the way I would look at it is a new system. It's a very vast system, and it's a system which has not been done anywhere else before. So in order to be fair to all the stakeholders, possibly some of the problems were expected. But what we should do at this stage to encourage compliance is to make it very definitive to say GSTR 3B is 20th, the tax has to be paid by 20th, and there are no extensions envisaged for the next 4 months.
I would imagine that is going to be the message that the government will have to send out. If you look at the numbers that have come in for the month of August, where the difference between the assessees and the number of people who've actually filed their GSTR 3B is significant. Prateek and Mani, appreciate you joining us here. That's the big story at this hour, the GST revenue collections as well as GST filings for the month of August. That's